Hey everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. And by far, out of all Star Wars movies, this is my favorite. Um, it's my favorite out of the prequels, it's my favorite overall. And I would probably give this an 8.5 out of 10 rating. And that's without me being totally biased towards it. I remember seeing this in the theaters when it came out and blown away by all the set pieces, the action sequences. There was just so much to immerse myself in, and I felt like at that moment I was like, this is the best Star Wars movie ever. One of my favorite things to look at and find in all Star Wars movies is to listen to the score as I'm watching the movie, especially on rewatches like this. This is probably at least the fourth time in the past 6 months that I've watched Revenge of the Sith, and every time I pick up on new and unheard things in the score or just what's going on in the scene that I feel like I've never picked up before. Looking back on at the time when this movie came out, I believe it was 2005. There was no Clone Wars. I've been keeping up with Clone Wars Season 7, and it's filling in a lot of things that affect the way I look at Revenge of the Sith now. And it's all in good ways, you understand more about Anakin and his character and Obi-Wan and why things, like choices he made. And you don't see Anakin's arc of just switching over to the dark side as something he does in an instant. You see his character's development and his anger increasing throughout the show. So, when it comes to the time for him to switch over to the dark side, it's not just a flip of the switch. I know that shouldn't necessarily affect my rating. Well, it doesn't, but it just makes Revenge of the Sith that much more enjoyable because there's no other TV show that is currently affecting the way we view like something like the sequel trilogy. I feel like the Clone Wars makes Revenge of the Sith such a better movie because it fills in gaps. That's something that is just, it makes it more enjoyable to watch. I believe by the mass, a lot of Star Wars fans believe Revenge of the Sith is the best out of the three, which is, in my opinion, true. It has the best choreography for the fights. I know a lot of people say it looks like they're dancing, but if you want to take that and compare it to people who are like fencing and doing other kind of sword duels, I guess, it looks like they're dancing. Star Wars, yeah, they just spin a little bit more, and it's all part of their fighting style. It's not, and it's at the height of like the Jedi's powers. Everybody's fighting a certain way. It's not like the original trilogy where Luke doesn't really have any specific training on how to fight. There's the seven fight styles. I believe there's seven. Rey doesn't learn any of that. Like practice wise, she just picks up the lightsaber and fights. I know I believe in episode 7, she like transfers everything from Kylo's mind into her mind. I think that's right. And I know she has the Jedi text, but it's not like she's an everyday like Jedi. She's not on Coruscant. She's not traveling. Actually keeping the peace the way the Jedi are in the prequels. They're not having to. She's not having to use her specific type of fighting. There's no real fighting style, I would say, that she has compared to like Mace Windu has his very own distinct fighting style that he uses the dark side. He draws like the energy from it to use it against his enemy. He doesn't go into the dark side. He just uses like kind of the energy from it. He, he doesn't dip into the dark side, I guess. But back to Revenge of the Sith. I like the story arc. I I like that this is like what the first two sequel movies are like leading up to, and it's the culmination of Anakin's arc and him falling to the dark side and turning into Darth Vader. I've always been drawn to Anakin as a character. Of all the times I've seen the prequels, I don't want to say that I relate to him, but I just feel like his character appeals to me. You know, like there's things about Obi-Wan that appeal to me, but I feel like Anakin as a whole, just like I understand where he's coming from. Just like in Attacking of the Clones, there's also the choppy dialogue from George Lucas in this one. There's a couple of scenes where Anakin says something he says, and the way Padme reacts to it, and it's just really dry. I think that's what it is. It's just dry dialogue, and again, like there's no. I don't want to say we can blame Hayden Christensen. I believe it's the writing that needed more work, because he can only do so much with what he has as an actor. I think it could have been written better. There are some good scenes. There's the scene where Anakin goes to the opera and Palpatine tells him about Darth Plagueis. That's like one of the most memeable, but it's like one of the best scenes in the movie. I think my favorite, because I enjoy the fighting in the prequels so much, because it's just so much more entertaining than the kind of slow fighting from the original trilogy, and even in the sequel trilogy, the fighting I feel is not that great. I just love the Obi-Wan versus Anakin scene in the very end. That's probably my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. I know there's a lot of criticism, like I said, about the whole choreography and it looks like they're dancing, but I saw somewhere that it was the Obi-Annie spin, like how they say it's so unnecessary for them just to be swinging the lightsabers around, but it's if you look into it, they know each other so much and so well that as one of them's going to do like one move, the other one's coming up to counter it because he's coming with that move, so he pulls back, and it's just a back and forth thing. So it's not necessarily like an unnecessary thing. They just know each other's fighting styles so well, so they know each other's moves and what they're going to do next. So that's the whole point of the spin, is one's coming up to hit, one's coming to block, the other one's going to counter, and he's coming to block because he just knows what's coming. But I mean, that's probably, that scene specifically, the Obi-Annie spin, is probably my favorite thing in Star Wars to watch. It's just incredible to watch that fight. I remember watching this in the theater, and I know Anakin was always supposed to be Darth Vader, but in the end, when when Obi-Wan is talking to him, telling him he has the high ground, and he cuts off Anakin's limbs, and Anakin's just screaming he hates Obi-Wan in that instance. Like, you can feel the pain, he feels so betrayed, because he feels like Obi-Wan was there to kill him. He felt like Padme had brought Obi-Wan there, and you just feel the pain and like his scream, and it's such a sad moment. It just gets me every time I see it. It's just a sad moment, because like he's in that moment, he's fully devoting himself to the dark side. Whether or not he survives, like if for people who have never seen the movie, like that they don't know that that's Darth Vader, or like that's who he's supposed to be, and he's gonna get a suit and everything. The ending with Padme dying and talking to Obi-Wan in her last words, saying they're still good in Anakin. That's kind of like a touchy thing too, no matter like what he's done, he killed the younglings, killed numerous amounts of Jedis. What he goes on to do as Darth Vader in the suit, he as much bad as he causes or does, and people's lives he takes, in the end they're still good at him, and she believes that. And yeah, it comes true in Return of the Jedi, but it's just it's such a sad thing to see because like she dies from a broken heart. Something that I feel like audiences really criticized the movie for was like she's dying and she just pulls out Luke and Leia out of nowhere, and that's how they get their names. I know their names are predetermined, like 30 years before. Um, but I feel like that's like people just like people want an answer like why Luke, why Leia. It was and all they got was like she was on her deathbed, and it was like okay, Luke and Leia, that's it. That's how I feel like people took it. But it's more than that, I guess. Like they had to throw it in somewhere. I mean, had they talked about like a baby name, like oh, if it's a boy, we should name him Luke. If it's a girl, Leia. I don't know why. I think that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow I'll be back with episode 4, A New Hope, getting into the original trilogy.